What up? What up? What up? It's been a couple weeks. Kind of excited about this message today. But I'm curious, what are these messages doing for you? I got one tonight that with this series we've been doing for the last this third one of this series about joy. And tonight I've got one that we all suffer from at some point in time that steals our joy. And I'm excited about this message tonight. And this one I'm coming in a little bit more raw than the other ones that I've done in the past because, over the last 8 weeks, I have presented my case for why fruit of the Spirit, about being the fruit of the Spirit, is for you and not for everybody else. Cam, you can turn down the music just a little bit. I've been in different prisons the last couple of weeks, having conversations with convicted killers and, people who have, just done some harsh things. And I'm having a conversation with them about where all their anger comes from. And of course, the conversation turns to the first 14 years. And I could just see how angry they are with the way their life has transpired up until the point where they committed the crime that ended them where they are. And I can't tell you, my heart, at some moments, it was hard to take. And one of my missions while I was in those prisons was to help my brothers and sisters, because I also do women's prisons too, is to help them see how magnificent they are. And it's only their thought that there's something missing in their life, or that there was something they were missing in their childhood, or when something happened to them that a piece of them became missing, that then created the trail of destruction afterwards. That I made it my personal mission at that point to help them understand the best word I could put it is their divinity. And I'm sharing that because the idea that we're here to suffer makes absolutely no sense to me. I do believe that we go through things and that those things teaches us lessons and teaches us things about ourselves. But the idea that we as a species, that we made in the image of the Creator with the power of the Creator are here to suffer makes no sense to me. I don't believe that we have to die in order to experience heaven. And Jesus didn't believe that either. One of the statements that he made, he says, I have come so that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Meaning, the current reality that you are experiencing right now is not the only reality that exists. But you can create your own abundance and salvation if you are only willing to repent, which means to change your mind. One of the terms that blew me away when I first heard this was the original word for church, ecclesia, which means to call out, which it's to call you out of the world, to call you out of society's thinking. Because the way society is set up to stress you out. The way the system is set up in society is for you to see yourself as small. The way that society is set up is so that you are constantly in envy and jealousy of the people around you. The way society is set up is not for you to experience heaven, but the way society is set up is for you to experience hell. But you don't have to die to get there. It happens right in between your own ears. So I started these series because I wanted people to understand that being the fruit of the Spirit is not hard. And being the fruit of the Spirit is not so that people can run you over or so that you can be passive, but being the fruit of the Spirit is so that you can manifest the kingdom of heaven right where you are, in your own seat, in your own chair, in your own house, in your own car, and you don't need anybody else in your life to experience it. It happens all within you. There's one thing that we can all agree on, is that we've all heard that God is omnipresent. God is everywhere. God is everything. Science calls it consciousness or energy. But it's that creative energy that dwells within us, and it is that creative energy that allows us to control what reality we experience. Jesus was the prototype. I was sharing this with a young lady earlier. I said, I want you to think of Jesus as the prototype. Quit seeing him as this otherworldly figure that you have no chance of attaining or becoming like. No, he was the prototype of what a fully evolved, conscious human being looks like, that is in complete control of the controllable, which is that energy that permeates everything. And then in another message, I talked about him leaving a roadmap for you to experience the kingdom of heaven right here on earth, and it's called the fruit of the Spirit. I was doing a presentation recently, and I said, what is nature's natural state? Undisturbed, unmessed with by human beings, what is nature's natural state? And they were like, it's abundance, growth, it's expansion. And I said, if nature's natural state, undisturbed, is to flourish, to expand, to grow, to prosper, then that has to be the nature of the creator that created everything, because that's the creator left alone. And then that energy consciousness, awareness, then decided to manifest itself in physical form, which is you. Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our image and likeness. For so long, we think that that image and likeness is just our physical being, when it's really our mental faculties. It's our ability to think consciously. That energy that permeates everything is neutral. There's no inherent positive or negative. It's just our thinking creates positive and negative. And then by law, that energy that permeates everything must manifest physically what we think mentally. It's connected. And so the purpose of you being love, joy, peace, kindness, faithfulness, goodness, gentleness, the purpose of that is so that you can be in right thinking. So that you can manifest and create all the goodness and the love and the joy and the happiness and the abundance and the prosperity that you can handle. We're talking about being the fruit of the Spirit, not doing the fruit of the Spirit. And you don't have the fruit of the Spirit. It is something that you become. You become love. You become joy. You become peace. You become gentleness. You become faithfulness. You become goodness. You become discipline and self-control. The Bible even says it in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, and the new is here. But anyone who is in Christ, consciousness. Like I said, Jesus was the prototype. So anyone who is in the same mindset that Jesus was in becomes a new person. And the old person falls away. That's about being. When you do something, then it automatically become the actions that follow become automatic. If I said that I'm going to be a vegan, do vegans eat meat? No. If I said I am a vegan, vegans don't eat meat. Even if I'm starving, you're not going to get me to eat meat. Why? Because that is out of character with who I say I am. So if I am a vegan, I'm going to do what vegans do. But if I said that I am a meat eater and I'm going to do a vegan diet, that's not going to last very long. Because the actions of a vegan is not in integrity with the identity of a meat eater. So I can't do something and then have something and be it. I can't do vegan and be a vegan. One of my mentors, he said, being is the seed of doing. So if I'm willing to be love, then I will do loving things automatically. If I'm willing to be joy, then I will do joyful things automatically. So the series that we've been on for the last couple of weeks is this series around joy. We've been talking about the logs that get stuck in your eye that keeps you from being who you really are. I was having a conversation with a woman earlier, and I said, happiness and joy is your natural state of being. I want you to think about that for a second. Happiness and joy is your natural state of being. And in order to be anything other than happiness and joy, you have to think your way out of it. You literally have to think your way out of being happy. You have to think your way out of being loving. You have to think your way out of being joyful. You have to think your way out of self-control. You have to think your way out of faithfulness. That is who you naturally are. So one of the logs that steals your joy and gets you to thinking something other than joy or feeling something other than joy is comparing yourself. Comparison will rob you of joy so fast, and so many of us, me included, suffer from this thief called joy. Comparison. Because you can't be grateful and jealous at the same time. Comparison robs you of joy because it has you always feeling like you're not enough. When you're in comparison, nothing will ever satisfy you. When you're in comparison, you will stress yourself completely out simply because you're trying to keep up with everybody. Comparison will wreck your confidence. Comparison will ruin your relationships. You ever been with a friend who just started doing well and all of a sudden you start resenting them? Comparing yourself to other people will keep you stuck. It's got you focused on what's going on in other people's lives instead of paying attention to your own. Comparing yourself to other people will make you a perfectionist. So you always try to outdo everybody else. Constantly comparing yourself to other people will have you feeling like your whole life is a competition. How could you be joyful if you think that you're missing something and that you always have to measure up against other people? How could you be joyful if you believe that your value is based on how well you do better than others? How could you be joyful if you believe that being successful is about outdoing everybody else? You can't pay attention to your own accomplishments because you're too busy looking at what everybody else is doing and then measuring what you're doing against what they're doing and then saying that what you have is not enough because it's not what they got. How could you be joyful if you believe that everybody else winning is you losing? You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about how they really do care about what other people think about them. And I said, here's the challenge with that. People don't actually experience you for who you are. They only experience their thinking of you. So you caring what other people think about you is a setup. Because they'll never think about you or think about you the way you want them to think about you, because they're filtering your actions, your comments, your words through their own belief system, through their own value system, through their own memories, and through their own triggers. So they could never truly see you the way you want them to see you. They can only see their thoughts about you. And so you trying to shuck and jive and make yourself be that likable person will steal your joy, because you'll never just be able to be your authentic self. You'll never be comfortable in your own skin. You cannot experience joy if you believe that in order to be happy, you have to have what other people have. How many cautionary stories do we have to see? Prince, Michael Jackson, Anthony Bourdain. How many people have we seen have all the stuff that one can possibly want and yet still be miserable? And you're still sitting there going, I want that. And my life isn't worthy unless I have that. But they have it and they still feel like their life isn't worthy. But Jesus said, or excuse me, Romans 10:17 says, faith comes by hearing. Where am I going with this? You did not, my daughter's 7 months old. She is not comparing herself to anyone. She is in her own little world, just as joyful and happy as can be. And that was you too. Until one day, you became consciously aware. And then you started comparing yourself to everything and everyone else around you to figure out who you are. Because when you're right now, my daughter has no idea she's alive. Zero idea. But then one day, awareness is going to kick in. And when that does, she's going to have 5 questions. Who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? What can I do? And where am I going? And then she's going to start looking at the world outside of her. She's going to start listening to what she's hearing, and she's going to take those things that she's experiencing in her environment and what she's hearing, and she's going to start comparing herself to what she's seeing and what she's hearing, and then she's going to start making up her own identity based off of what she's seeing and hearing from her environment. This is why it talks about faith comes from hearing. Belief comes from hearing. We're talking about your environment. So the doubt that you experience has nothing to do with what you're capable of, but has everything to do with how you've been trained to behave or how you were conditioned in your environment. Maybe growing up, you heard things like, why can't you be more like your brother or sister? Maybe you heard to look how well others are doing and that you need to try harder. Maybe out of attempt to try to motivate you, your mom and dad or grandma or somebody was like, look, they got straight A's, you need to do better. Making you feel like that what you're doing is not enough. Maybe you had competitive parents and they were like, you need to win. Second place is not good enough. What did he say on Talladega Nights? You got to be first place. And so doing your best doesn't matter, because if you come in second, you ain't shit. Look, especially growing up in an environment where having things were so important, I remember being told that people don't respect you unless you have a certain kind of car or live in a certain kind of neighborhood. And these became the driving forces for which, still to this day, is sitting in the back of my subconscious mind, secretly have me driving down the road in my nice car, but then see another car and go, man, maybe I should be in that car. And then stop being grateful for the one that I'm driving in. Maybe you were told or compared to others by saying, if they can do it, why can't you? When really secretly you didn't want to do it. You probably were too afraid to say that, but because you didn't speak up for yourself, you just let people keep saying, well, if they can do it, why can't you? So now you think something's wrong with you. Maybe you heard somebody say, they're getting ahead, you better catch up. Maybe you were trying your hardest at something and somebody looked at you and said, there's other people better than you at that. You should try something else. The point that I'm trying to make here is that comparing yourself to other people is not your natural state. It is how you've been trained to behave. It is how society has shaped you to compete. But that competition, that sense of competing, does nothing but steal your joy. What's the point? And I'm not just speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself too. What is the point of winning the rat race if you hate yourself at the end of it? What is the point of winning the rat race when the people you love don't love you back? This is why one of my favorite parables that Jesus talks about is the rich man that comes to him with all of his camels and all of his servants and all of his gold. And he asks Jesus, he says, Jesus, how do I enter the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus said, easy, sell all your shit. But not because being whole or being poor is holy, but because he wanted that man to recognize that he was everything with nothing. And when you recognize that you're everything with nothing, the comparison stops. You become whole and complete in your own world, not worrying about what's going on outside of you or what's going on in the world, because guess what? Society is going to do what society does. You don't have to let society and what's going on in society rob you of this beautiful experience called life. You are blessed with 6 incredible mental faculties for which you are given to create whatever life you desire to create. And it is through these mental faculties that we filter everything. And you're the only creature on the planet that has those 6 higher level mental faculties. Perception, your ability to perceive and create a scenario through your thinking and see it the way you choose to see it. Will, your ability to go against your natural nature, your instinct, to go in a different direction. Reason, your ability to form logic and judgments. Intuition, your ability to tap into that creative force that we've been talking about that entire time, that literally has all the answers, all the incredible ideas that you can possibly muster. Our intuition taps into that infinite source and downloads information like the internet straight into your system. Imagination, the ability to see something that's not in the physical world, but then created in your mind and then created in physical reality. Memory, your ability to form what I call instant replay. You can pull up something that happened in the past, replay it in your mind, not for the sake of dwelling, but so that you can slow down, widen the scope, play it backwards and forwards, look at the situation from different angles and see, was that the right call? What decision did I make? Why did I make that decision? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? And then allow yourself to learn from that past issue or past memory and apply it to today so that you can progress your life forward. You are the only creature on the planet that can do that. But instead, you use your mental faculties to compare yourself to the rest of the world. Because the rest of the world, their job is to tell you you ain't shit. How do I know that? It's called marketing. Everything you've ever bought, you were fine without it. But somebody convinced you that you weren't. I'm fine with Walmart clothes until somebody comes along with good marketing and says, well, you ain't shit until you're wearing that Gucci. You ain't shit until you wearing them Legend jeans. You're not cool unless you're rocking these shoes. You were fine with what you had until somebody told you you weren't. Especially in Western culture, there's this I ain't shit until mentality that permeates through all of our consciousness. We were all programmed with it because they show you, quote unquote, what success looks like. But a mother raising her children, making sure they get through school and get on with their lives safely, that's not successful. She's not successful until she's got her own fucking thriving $1 million business. Forget the fact that she raised 4 beautiful children. That's not success. That's not what was projected to her. So now she's comparing herself not to who she could be as a mother, but she's comparing herself to what she's seeing on TV and what she's seeing on social media and what she's seeing on the internet, and then saying, well, forget the fact that I'm literally raising the next generation of human beings. I ain't shit because I ain't that. And instead of her children getting the most happy, loving, joyful version of their mom, who just literally gives everything to them because she doesn't need anything, she's good, she's whole, she's complete, she knows she's everything with nothing. So she's able to just give all of that extra energy to her children. But instead, she's out here trying to matter to the world because somewhere in her childhood, somebody convinced her that she wasn't good enough just the way she was. And so she's out here trying to matter to the world. Meanwhile, her children are wondering, do they matter to her? And the cycle repeats. I'm not saying that renouncing wealth and all of that is no. Be comfortable. You want to buy that G-Wagon? Buy the goddamn G-Wagon. But don't let it be because you're trying to live up to an identity that you think is necessary in order for you to be whole and complete and be everything you need to be. Because you're everything right now with nothing. Even if you were on the street, sleeping under a tent, you are still everything. I'm not saying that's necessary. But I believe, this is just my belief, that our Creator is living through us. And it is our job to show our Creator how awesome he or she is. But we cannot do that when we're too busy trying to show the world how awesome we are. I hope that made sense. You got to know you're awesome. Just go in the mirror and look right there where you are without adding anything to your life and even taking away everything. You are everything. And the day you realize that, and I'm not talking about intellectually, I'm talking about emotionally, you will experience a level of joy that you cannot explain to others. And it will permeate through you no matter what the circumstances are. Because you won't worry about what the world thinks about you. You'll realize that the only person's opinion who matters of you is you. I usually don't encourage people to do anything after these messages. I usually just say thank you, but for this next week, I want you to just write out, what is everything that you are out here comparing yourself to? Who do you compare yourself to and why? Because if we don't know what's driving us, then we will drive ourselves into the ground and miss this whole opportunity. And I know this because I get a chance to sit down with the older generation, and I like to ask them, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? And it always comes back to the same thing. I wouldn't give a fuck about what people think, and I would just do what I wanted to do. Because I realized nobody was thinking about me in the first place. Because every last one of us are the stars of our own movie, we think that the world is watching us. We think that everybody is paying attention to us. And so a lot of us on some level have a level of social anxiety because we care about how we look to the rest of the world. But just like I told this guy in prison, you don't have social anxiety, because in order to have social anxiety, that requires so much, a whole nother level of self-centeredness. While you out here comparing yourself to other people because you're thinking about what they think about you, you're not recognizing that they're the star of their own movie, worrying about what you think about them. And so nobody's really thinking about anybody. So just journal. Go within you. Who do you compare yourself to? What do you compare yourself to? And why? And release yourself from this thief of joy called comparison. I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you for consistently showing up. I'm going to be here whether you're here or not, because I need these messages just as much as some of you. But I truly believe that it is our birthright to experience love, joy, peace, and heaven right here on earth. But we have to go within ourselves to get rid of the world, society's conditioning, in order for us to experience it. Take care, everybody. Have a blessed week. I'll see you next week.